Good Thursday morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Michelle Beck. Let's get to your headlines. The world is keeping a close eye on this very chimney on top of the Sistine Chapel as Catholic cardinals vote for their next leader. As soon as white smoke is seen coming from it, we'll know a new pope has been selected. So far, there have been 3 votes, none of them producing a winner. Each day of the conclave starts with a mass, and the cardinals file into the Sistine Chapel to vote twice during a morning session. If no candidate receives a 2/3 majority, they get a midday break.
They can go back to their rooms, they can rest, they can talk to each other until the afternoon. Then they go back to the Sistine Chapel.
They return for 2 more votes in the afternoon, and if there's still no decision, cardinals return to their Vatican dorms for the night.
Have dinner, and they can stay up as long as they want. There's no curfew of that kind, with meetings, talking to each other, and then on the next day they start the routine all over again.
Right now, thousands of people are gathered in St. Peter's Square with their eyes on that chimney awaiting the white smoke. A check of the markets this morning as President Trump announces the first post-tariff trade deal with another country. He says the U.S. and U.K. have a, quote, full and comprehensive agreement. That as his Treasury Secretary prepares for high-stakes trade talks with China this weekend. Meanwhile, here at home, the Federal Reserve says economic uncertainty is rising, prompting it to leave interest rates unchanged. NBC's Alice Barr is in Washington with the latest.
Hi there. Today's trade deal announcement with the UK comes as the Trump administration has been under pressure to resolve tariff disputes to ease widespread economic uncertainty. President Trump this morning confirming what he called a full and comprehensive trade deal with the United Kingdom ahead of a formal Oval Office announcement. It's the first deal since the president began imposing sweeping tariffs on trading partners around the world, promising more to come after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent faced a grilling on Capitol Hill over delivering on trade deals.
There are 18 important trading partners, and we are moving forward at all deliberate speed with those.
The secretary set to begin highly anticipated negotiations with China this weekend as President Trump, while swearing in a new ambassador to China, signaled he's not backing down.
Are you open to pulling back your tariffs in order to get China to the negotiating table?
No.
And pushed back on the idea that the U.S. initiated the China trade talks.
They said we initiated? Well, I think they ought to go back and study their files.
The 145% tariff on Chinese goods has already forced some prices up for U.S. consumers. Now, the Federal Reserve says it's leaving interest rates unchanged, rather than the rate cut President Trump has been pressing for, the Fed chair citing economic uncertainty fueled by tariff policy.
If the large increases in tariffs that have been announced are sustained, they're likely to generate a rise in inflation, a slowdown in economic growth, and an increase in unemployment.
Chairman Powell noting it's unclear if those effects would be short-lived or long-lasting, arguing a resilient economy overall makes a wait-and-see approach to rates possible, as markets to Main Street wait for more solid footing. On immigration, a federal judge has temporarily blocked a Trump administration move to deport a group of undocumented migrants to Libya using a military plane. 2 sources telling NBC News that was planned for as soon as this week. The judge said the move would violate a previous court order. In Washington, I'm Alice Barr. Back to you.
A U of M grad could be Minnesota's next U.S. attorney. President Trump announced Daniel Rosen as his pick. He's a U of M law school graduate and Navy veteran with more than 30 years experience. In a statement, the state's GOP delegation calls Rosen one of the sharpest legal minds in the country. Rosen still needs to be confirmed by the Senate before he takes the job. If confirmed, he'll replace Andy Lugar, who stepped down, which typically happens with a change in presidential administrations. It's been more than 24 hours since the TSA started enforcing real ID requirements at airports across the country. But for now, officials are taking a phased approach to the rollout. This morning, only about 42% of Minnesotans have a real ID. If you don't have one, officials say you'll still be able to travel, but there will likely be delays. Now, we've been monitoring things at MSP, and according to our reporters, day one was largely quiet. One airline industry expert tells us he is not shocked.
The last thing a politician wants is millions of angry Americans who can't take a trip because they enforced a policy that had already been extended multiple times.
We know full enforcement is set to begin in 2 years. By May 2027, you'll need either a real ID, enhanced driver's license, or a federally approved ID like a passport. Happening today, Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy will announce a major upgrade plan for the U.S. air traffic control system that could require Congress to approve billions in additional funding. This comes as mishaps have caused delays along with staffing shortages at some major airports across the country, including Newark Liberty International. Those delays are causing ripple effects across the country, also leaving people stranded. Duffy will be joined by the CEOs of the nation's 5 largest airlines, who all say they back the plan. Duffy says seeing the project to completion will take about 3 to 4 years. This morning, leaders in Rochester are vowing to get justice for a 5-year-old boy at the center of a racist incident, all caught on camera. The NAACP held a town hall last night in response to that now viral video. It shows a man confronting a woman for calling the boy a slur at a playground in town and then repeating it. She accused the boy of stealing from her toddler's diaper bag and has since started a fundraiser for herself.
We demand accountability, not just comfort. Let me say it plain. We will not let a 5-year-old suffer while grown women profits from hate.
Rochester police say they've completed an investigation, but it's unclear what exactly they found. The city attorney will now decide whether charges will be filed. Today, hitting the Senate floor at the state capitol is a bill establishing a statewide office of Inspector General to fight fraud here in Minnesota. This morning, our Danny Spiewak explains what the bill would do and what would happen next.
After 4 months of churning through committees,
we've addressed concerns. We've amended this bill at every stop. It's time to move forward.
DFL Senator Heather Gustafson and Republican Senator Michael Kroon's bill to create an Office of Inspector General passed its final committee Wednesday and now heads to the Senate floor.
I don't think there's any surprises to anybody here.
In response to scandals like Feeding Our Future, the bill would merge existing inspectors general within agencies into one statewide office with independent authority to investigate fraud across state government. One of the agencies that already has an inspector general is the Department of Human Services.
There are a number of inspector general ideas going through the legislature.
But temporary DHS Commissioner Shireen Gandhi wrote to lawmakers expressing concern that a statewide inspector general could interfere with federal laws that require DHS to investigate Medicaid fraud, like we've seen lately in autism and recovery centers.
Anything the state can do to strengthen programs while making sure that each agency is able to fulfill its own obligations to stop fraud through inspector generals is a good thing.
Under the Senate bill, the inspector general would be appointed by the governor and confirmed by the Senate. In the House, though, lawmakers have proposed an inspector general be appointed by a legislative commission.
We're going to have to make a decision.
Despite the differences, GOP Representative Patty Anderson says she's met weekly with senators and is hopeful the two chambers can pass the bill separate from budget negotiations.
There's no reason that this OIG needs to be a part of a global deal. Both parties support this.
The inspector general proposal is expected to hit the Senate floor on Thursday. If it passes, it would go on to the House, and if those two chambers can reach an agreement, then the governor would need to sign the bill for it to become law. At the Capitol, I'm Danny Spiewak, KARE 11 News.
Students at St. Paul's Farnsworth Aerospace School learn firsthand the power of seeing your dreams take flight. NASA's space shuttle pilot Dwayne Digger Carey visited with students from the school on St. Paul's east side. Carey has made trips to his hometown and this particular school for the last 23 years.
We primarily need kids who are going to get technical skills. We need kids with communication skills, artistic skills, athletic skills. Across the whole spectrum of skills that are important here on Earth are going to be important skills that are needed on the space team as we continue forward and colonize the solar system.
He said the partnership is based on his hope of inspiring students with his own story, which goes from living in public housing and hopping freight trains in their very neighborhood to piloting NASA's space shuttle. Tonight, it's Game 2 of the Western Conference semifinals at the Target Center. The Timberwolves putting in the work in the last 24 hours to avoid a repeat performance from Tuesday. And this morning, there's some big developments that could help them tonight. Audrey Russo is at the Target Center with the details.
Well, if you take their X account as gospel truth, the Timberwolves are calling tonight their bounce back moment. Bouncing back from Game 1's crushing loss with a new mindset and a new edge over their opponents, the Golden State Warriors. Golden State star shooter Steph Curry is out with a hamstring injury for the next 3 games. Still, it's going to take a lot for fans to forget the Timberwolves' performance, or lack thereof, in Game 1. Their worst offense of the season and a franchise record for the fewest points scored in a half. Anthony Edwards says he's not focusing on any of those headlines. He's just focusing on playing better.
I'm just ready to play. Yeah, I don't really look at who injured, who out there, who not out there. I'm ready to go out there and do it again, try to play a little better.
Tickets for Game 2 tonight at 7:30 are still on sale. The lowest that I could find were about $92 a pop. Whatever happens here in Game 2, they're going to have to leave it here because the Timberwolves will have to pack everything up for Game 3, heading out to California. That is on Saturday. Back to you.
Okay, do stick with us. More news and weather are coming up after the break.